All right. We are doing week 9. I want to start by apologizing about my week 8 discussion boards. I thought we were on week 9 last week. So I had to go back and fix those. I understand the late grade policy, but those have been completed. I did it just before recording this video. So for chapter 13, week 9, I want to focus on, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, Pai Ji Tsiu, the 3 Poems of Shame. Now, these was written 865 current era. So this is a more modern, this is a couple thousand, 1,200 years before now, roughly. This was written, before I really get into it, the audience, to me, just to me, as an interpretation, is men of war who have lived and fought through wars and seen wars through, and their lives after the war. That is my interpretation of this. This is just due to a bias of mine currently studying weapons of mass destruction in History 388. After going over nuclear weapons, a big thing a lot of men have discussed, even after fighting a war, is the what have we done? What repercussions do we have to fight? Especially the crew of the Enola Gay, when they saw the bomb, one of the big things they thought was, who have we just hurt? Why have we dropped such a massive load? Like, why have we done this? Oh my gosh. So that's kind of my instance, and I want to go to the point. Let me find it. Who can listen to war drums in the daytime and not suffer the sight of metal arrowheads? And that to me really connects to the audience of men of war. What have they done? Why have they done this? Why are they fighting this war? Why was it written? This was written for the people who don't experience war. And I want to also point to people of Vietnam. After we fought in the Vietnam War in the late 60s and early 70s, men were coming home, and instead of being heralded as heroes as every other war was, they were spat on, they were kicked down. You're a baby killer, you're a murderer. They had no choice, they were drafted. It was either be this baby killer or be traitorous to your home country. What were the main issues? A lot of the issues that I see were coming in that last part of I was ashamed of the families of the Sioux warriors. I lament those thoughtless ones who simply do not follow the steps of their ancestors. My family does not produce grain for the army. I am not familiar with military affairs. The main issues are, in that last one especially, I am not fighting in this war, though there is an enemy. I do not care for the military. I do not care for the enemy. Though I have sympathy, I should not be involved, as this is not my fight. And that is a big issue still today with the war on terror. I take this with a grain of salt. I am 22 years old. This war started in 2001. It has been 20 years. I have lived my whole life knowing this is going on, knowing that some sort of Muslim and Islamic people are the bad guys in this life. Though, why is this war still being fought? Why are American men still dying in Afghanistan for something that happened 20 years ago? This is a war against an ideology. Very similarly to this, a war against tribes. And I eat the same kind of food as the Sioux warriors. Now that I know teachings of the ancients, are they ready enough to shelter me? Who is the shame in this song sung? The Ying flow rivers far and green. Why are we still fighting these wars in Afghanistan? Why are these wars in this book still being fought on page 87? What is the point after a certain amount of time? What were the main issues? Why are these wars being fought? And how do they litigate or studying an event or issue? What questions are left unanswered? I don't really have a whole lot of questions after, as these are poems, and analyzing poems is really an open interpretation. As somebody who's written poems and won awards for poems, won't get into that story. There's a lot of interpretation, a lot of open-endedness in poems and in certain literature such as this. So I don't have a whole lot of what if. What if this man did go to fight in this last sentence? Would he care? Would he not want to fight? I would want to point to the movie Hacksaw Ridge as this man wants to fight for his country, but doesn't want to kill anybody. He feels killing is wrong. How does the source either reveal a problem or help solve an area of contention? I don't really have solve a problem or area of contention with this source, though I do have connections to modern day, as Again, wars are being fought, but what reasons are they being fought? People have lived their whole lives through the Cold War, realizing that they're fighting for political ideologies in the Cold War. It's just communist versus capitalist, and that's all they might have known. People who were born in the late 50s have only known anti-communist natures. And even until they would have been, if somebody was born in 1955, if they lived until 1991, exactly, their whole life would have just been communists are bad, we need to fight communists. And even after that point, it could have been communists are still bad, we need to still fight communists. Does a source represent a particular bias? I want to point to that last one again. It does, because it points to people who aren't in the war, who want to not fight or feel there should be a fight. Though bias is against war, against murdering fellow humans. There could even be relation to PTSD, what we call now PTSD. It could be shell shock in the early 1900s, and I'm not sure for a term before then. But again, who can listen to war drums in the daytime and not suffer the sight of metal arrowheads? I have a plan for victory, though irregular and considered worthless by others. How are these sources useful? It's a connection back to us as humans. That we're still humans regardless of which era you look at it. We will be humans. We don't want to fight in wars, we just want to live our own lives. And that's a big thing. We just want to live our lives. I'm Anthony Saluto. I don't want to fight a war for not Anthony Saluto unless I feel I have to. To whom would they have been useful? To whom would they have been useful? People studying this time period, people politicizing for war. Going back to that Vietnam analogy. If I'm protesting Vietnam, I can look and say, hey, we shouldn't be fighting this war. It's not our fight. Are they reliable? They could absolutely be reliable if you're using that. Though, as more of a poem, I want to say no. Just plain and simple. What evidence supports this point? It's a poem. It's not really facts. It's not really somebody saying X item or X agenda or X political ideology. It's just a poem. You could, in this next question, what evidence contradicts it? It has been contradicted by the fact it's a poem about anti-disestablishmentarianism. I don't want to fight in this war. It's not my problem. That's a lot of things nowadays. It's not my problem. I don't have a problem. Anthony Saluto doesn't have a problem with it. But many others might have a problem with it, and they might want to go fight. And good for them. That's their beliefs. It's not my beliefs, or vice versa. I could absolutely want to go fight in X war for X reason, and any viewer of this video could go, I don't want to fight in that war. That's not my problem. I'm not exactly sure what else to state from this, except connecting people from 1865, CE or BC or AD, depending on how you want to look at it. But I feel people don't want to fight unnecessary wars, as a summary, regardless of the era, regardless of religion, regardless of who you think or how you think. People don't want to fight in wars.